Hello, the purpose of this video is to give you some ideas for glamour in the future for your Viper. Viper uses the scouting classification of gear, which currently is only used by Ninja, so a lot of that is going to be comparable. Of course, we're not going to be able to use Ninja specific gear, but there's a lot of scouting gear added to the game over the last 10 years that looks absolutely awesome. These are some of my favorite pieces, so let's go straight into it. First of all, one of my favorite chess pieces for scouting in the entire game is the Omega chess piece from O12S or A4S, depending on how you want to look at that. The Omega series is great. A lot of the glamour is sort of neo, sort of futuristic. We've got blue sort of highlights on a lot of it. Some of the other gear has like neon highlights when it gets dark as well. This has not so much of that, but it has a really, really nice design. Lots of exposed flesh. So if you want your character to have, not complete coverage, then this looks really good. I've paired this with the 2B bottoms, the Valentione boots there, and some cash shop gloves, as well as a cash shop headdress, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. The chess piece is definitely something that goes with a lot of items. A lot of people have put this on their wish list, and you can also pick up the Omega weapons as well. Those were confirmed to work in the Dawntrail benchmark, so there is going to be a new set of Viper and Pictomancer presumably weapons for the Omega series, so definitely go and get one of those weapon coffers. But yeah, the chess piece is beautiful. I can imagine making lots and lots of different glamours around this as a basis, and I hope that they do something similar to this with more neon lights and maybe RGB in the future, especially considering where we're going in Dawntrail and Solution 9 as a theme. Let's move on to more stuff then. For the second set then, I put together something very simple using the Credenum Corselet of Scouting as the basis. I love this chess piece, and I don't see a lot of people using it. It is pretty much current gear, but it looks so good. Of course, if we get that augmented, we've dyed that jet black. We've got the Rinascita Hood of Scouting in pure white, so that we still have those brass elements, that lovely mask, and sort of matches with the cloak color as well. We've got the Darbar gloves of Scouting in jet black here, which are beautiful gloves. I love the fur lining of those. It really works quite well with this, at least I think so. The martial artist slops dyed sup black, although pretty much any bottoms would work here. You can't really see them, but I do like the martial artist slops, so I use those. And then the Neo-ish Guardian Solarets of Scouting, which is crafted stuff dyed jet black as well. I think this is one of my favorite setups, and it's certainly something I would use if I played Ninja, so I will certainly use this in the future for my Viper. This next one I came up with then feels a little bit more Assassin's Creedy, especially with the blades on the side of the gloves here. So we're using the Yorha Type 51 Hood of Scouting, dyed ruby red, with the Hypostatic Tunic of Scouting, also dyed ruby red. And then for these Althix Gauntlets of Scouting, which is a very underused item, I've dyed those pure white. Probably the dyes are going to change drastically in Dawntrail, but it makes it as silver as humanly possible there with that red tip. I really like that. And then we've gone for the taffeta loincloth, dyed ruby red, of course. Nice, simple sort of extra bits of skin popping out there. I thought it looked quite nice. And then the Darbar thigh boots of Scouting. I love the Darbar sets. They are, again, quite underused for glamours. That's dyed ruby red. I think there's a nice balance of white, silver, and red there. Try to max it up. I could have probably made a different helm decision, but I really loved the Type 51 Hood of Scouting, so that's the one I went with. Some other pieces of gear that I'm quite fond of are sort of tribal themed outfits, especially with something to leave room for a weapon. So depending on what color a lot of the glowy weapons and things will be for Viper, I'm hoping that a lot of them will have purples in them, because there's a lot of gear with purple throughout. I've gone for the Ravel Keeper's headdress here of Scouting. We've dyed that obviously gunmetal black. Then to go with that, we've got a chess piece in the form of a Bonewicker Shadows chess piece, again gunmetal black. We've got replica Dreadworm braces of Scouting in gunmetal black, and the Woodland Warden skirt in gunmetal black. Now, the Woodland Warden skirt does have quite a bit of green on the front of it usually. You can't really see it in this exact example, but I'm hoping with the dual dye channel palette system we can undo that green. I would love to use that skirt more often. It's from the Woodland Warden set on the cash shop if you're wondering. And then to wrap it off, I've got the Eden's Grace thigh boots of scouting dyed gunmetal black as well. Some of the better sort of thigh boots in the game. If you've never done the Eden stuff, definitely get yourself some items from there. There's some really nice stuff, especially Eden's Grace. Very nice wing themed items. And of course, speaking of Eden, we do know that the Edenmorn weapons should be a thing as well, considering Viper actually showed these. If you choose the Eden set on the character creator, you can actually briefly see the Edenmorn weapons for Viper, so that means probably Pictomancer as well. Not a bad set. It's not my favorite of all of those pieces together, but I wanted to sort of showcase a bunch of items I like individually, especially the Bonewicker Shadows chest. It's such a good set. I love the Bonewicker set for most things, including casters as well. And then we move on to this then, which is less of a set and more of me showcasing individual items just put together. So this is the Edenmorn Eye Mask of Scouting, one of my favorite eye pieces in the game, covering obviously your character's left eye here. I've dyed this metallic purple. It's fully dyeable. One of the coolest items in the game, especially if you wanted to design a character to look like something from Nier specifically, then or you know, whatever you might have. It's very unique. I'd like to see more unique headpieces like this in the future, especially if we're not going to get head covers for Viera and Hrothgar. It would be nice to see more stuff like this personally. The Purgatory Coat of Scouting, this is an undyeable one. Of course, if you did do the Savage version, you can get yourself the Abyssos chest piece. The chest piece is pretty nice, actually. It's very difficult to match with, though. It's very flashy, but the rose sort of pinky gold, purpley gold inlay is very difficult to actually match with. There's very few items in the game that have a rose gold kind of color to them, so it's very difficult to match both blue, purple, and that rose gold, and red and black. Obviously, this is the sort of chest piece that would benefit from the ability to change the color of that brass inlay, hopefully with that dual dye channel palette, but of course we don't know how far they're going to backdate. Then, of course, I'm showing here what happens with some chess pieces in the game to be aware of. These are the werewolf arms. Usually they're quite bulky werewolf-related hands with claws, but as you can see, with things like the Purgatory Coat here and a few others, it actually goes underneath the actual cuff line, which is interesting. So you don't have that big bulk, you just have the claws. So it's a good alternative to Claws of the Beast, which has your full hand exposed. There's not many clawed gloves in the game, like proper clawed ones. But yeah, for some reason, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. This doesn't work with every chess piece, but those are dyed jet black there. I really like that, and I just wanted to demonstrate that they worked underneath rather than over the top. And then we've got the augmented Crystarian pantaloons of Scouting. These are really good. And then to wrap it up, I've just shoved the Boulevardiers dress shoes on there in jet black. There's a lot of really good dress shoes. I like high heels usually, but some of the flat shoes are really nice as well. But yeah, that's just a demonstration of bits and pieces, less of an actual set. It's worth mentioning that the old PvP gear is an option as well if you wanted to go for any of those pieces. There's some really good sets. I personally quite like the Bat Liege set with all of the extra sort of like bat wings coming off the arms, things like that. There's a lot you can use from those individual pieces, mixing and matching with lots of the other items we've already mentioned, as well as the late Alagan stuff, which is a more recent set. Lots of luminosity, like sort of shine across the actual metal. I can't even imagine what that's going to look like with Dawntrail's, you know, lighting and, you know, texture quality upgrades, as well as the dye palette system as well. It's going to be really, really exciting. So definitely check out the PvP vendors. Just see what there is. Go window shopping. Basically, that's what I do. One last one then before I get carried away and fill like an hour worth of scouting options. The Picaroon's Mask of Scouting then looking really cool. I like the half masks here in jet black with that Pantheon Mail of Scouting in jet black. That really nice veil on the back there. I really like these chest pieces. The Bat Liege Cote, like we said before from PvP, making even the most boring thin looking outfits look really, really wide because of those wings extending out
Those are dyed jet black with the augmented Rathalos Coil F here just to add some extra thigh into this with jet black dye, and then the Ghost Bark open-toed boots of scouting, which are pretty nice actually. I would recommend getting some of those jet black. But yeah, just a nice simple glamour, but sometimes the simple glamours are the best. And yeah, not always do you want something bulky, sometimes you want something that looks sleek, or, you know, and definitely you're going to get that from scouting, from Ninja basically being the progenitor of that role for the longest time until now. Anyway, what are your favorite items of scouting? I'm sure you have plenty that you're sat on. Feel free to share those in the comment section. I'm really excited to see what people come up with for their Viper. And yeah, I can't wait to see the new changes to the graphics update, the texture quality, the shaders, the shadows, and of course the dual dye channel palette system. We don't have to wait too much longer, but I'm very excited, and hopefully this gave you some ideas for things you could come up with yourself. Much love, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. I cannot wait to glamour. I really can't.